Hey, greetings YouTube, Performance Reviews, where I give you the review from the technician's point of view. And today we have a Shark vacuum. Now, I've gotten a lot of questions over the years of why I don't recommend Shark vacuums, and I really thought the answer was self-explanatory, and apparently it's not. So we're going to get into that today and what happens at the end of life of your Shark vacuum. Now, these vacuums are not made to last that of a normal vacuum cleaner. You know, most consumer vacuum cleaners are like about 250 working hours, and with the better brands being 1,000 to 2,000 working hours. Shark is definitely in that 100 working hour range, which means 6 months to a year is the average life of a Shark. Now, you can't tell by looking at it, but this Shark has actually been maintained fairly well because of its age, believe it or not, and that's why it's lasted as long as it has. So it's about 2 years old or so, and it is, well, it's ready to be replaced. And this story will have a happy ending, and I'll let you know what they replaced it with at the end. But I want to show you why and what happened, because a lot of people just believe the infomercial or the commercial that's being paid for by some influencer they like. So I'm going to show you what happens and some of the problems with Shark after you purchase it. Also, on a side note, I have a Hoover here, which is perfectly functional, that's 5 years old, and cost about half as much as this Shark. So I'm not saying the Hoover is the best vacuum to buy, but I'm saying there are other vacuums in this price point that will consistently outlast Shark for the same price or less. So keep that in mind if you really are on a budget. There are better companies who make cheap shit from China. So let's get into it. The first thing, I think right away that we're gonna notice is there's no crush-proof hosing on this, and you can see where this is just, well, that can't be great for airflow. And you can see part of the problem is you have this thing, and you can see where the plastic is stretched and starting to break already. And this is the strain relief that holds the hose in place. Because of the design, they have this hose flopping around. And for those who don't know, this is a lift-away cleaner, which is a copy of I'm not sure who had it first, if it was Bissell or Sebo. I think Bissell was first to market, but they were both in development at about the same time. But in the 90s, a bunch of people started developing these uprights that functioned a little bit more like a canister, because some people in the American market are just resistant to buying what they should have. So right away, we got lights, and these LEDs are kind of faded, but they're kind of dirty. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so right away, if you're not familiar with the two-motor system, there's a motor for the brush rollers and a motor for the suction. The suction motor is not turning on. So let's investigate that, and then I'll show you the brush roller. I do have a whole video explaining why this brush roller system is a bad idea. And again, a lot of people really doubted my repair knowledge and my experience with that for some reason, so you're going to get to see it firsthand here as well. So let's lift this off. So first off, here is the filter. Now, I gave this customer quite the questioning. So this is after about 2 weeks of use of the unit. And again, Shark tells you to wash the filter about once a month. I recommend every time you use it. So these are the filters. Those are probably beyond washing at this time. Now, one thing I will say is the Chinese manufacturers on Amazon are killing it, making replacement parts and stuff available. So I'll put a link below to some of that stuff. That might be useful to somebody. We have a filter under here as well. And you can see on here where it started leaking around the filter because it got so dirty and the motor got hot. So what happens is, if you don't change that filter like every 3 to 6 months or so, this housing is of about the same grade of plastic as the disposable plastic for the filter. So this housing begins to warp, and then you start to see stuff leak around the filter and gasket. So they claim a sealed system, but in actuality, it's not made well enough for it to be a sealed system. Ugh. I know this looks gross on camera, and it's definitely gross in person, but this is actually pretty good for a Shark. Usually we see these, they're far worse. I know it might be hard to believe. So we can see that the customer has emptied the canister. Again, not a good way without throwing this in the dishwasher to clean it, but they actually empty the canister regularly, so they are attempting to maintenance this. And she said she does clean the hair off once a week from this thing as well. So let's separate it. So let's see if the lift away function works. It doesn't always work. Okay, this one actually works. Yes, believe it or not, that lift away function fails. So this is the actual vacuum, and you can see there's not a lot of room for sound deadening or the motor to cool. You can see it's a pretty chintzy design. So we've gone a little bit further into the autopsy, and you can see, well, you can see where that motor, and yep, the carbon brushes have completely worn off on that motor. And that was the end of that. Now, who made this motor for Shark? That's the question. MD5. Bearings are still good on it. It's a tiny little motor with a plastic fan. Really peculiar. Yeah, MD, yeah, that's the actual manufacturer, okay. So some unknown Chinese company. And I don't know why companies do this. They keep copying this horrible Dyson tool design. This was bad when Dyson did it. It's not any better when any other manufacturer does it from China. So that is absolutely horrible. We're just gonna set that to the side for y'all to look at. So let's get into the rest of it. Again, this is a lift away, and the idea is that this is supposed to be somehow more convenient than a canister having a short hose and somehow having to lift the vacuum rather than just have this on wheels to begin with. Again, they're just trying to market to consumers and then design a product around the marketing. Very bad ideas. In fact, Shark is a bad idea factory. Going to the nozzle. So the first thing I noticed right away is that there is a hole right there in the hose. That hose is not available separately, and it's not a standard size hose we see in the industry. It's not 1 1/4 inch, it's not an inch, it's not 32, 34, 35 millimeters. It's a wonky size, so there's really no replacement for that hose. And the way Shark wants you to deal with this is replace the whole head. And again, they're making money. They're selling these heads for, $100+, so they're okay with that. Now, some of you are going to say, oh, well, what if it's under warranty? So try calling Shark's warranty. It's very interesting. First of all, they try to charge you shipping for the unit, which is absurd. They have no warranty stations. Even that Hoover I showed earlier, you can actually bring it into physical locations. There's about 3,500 of them around the country. You can actually bring your basic Hoover into a service center and have somebody take a look at it, which is not true with Shark and some of these other kind of fly-by-night brands, though Shark has kind of become a real brand now. And I know it sounds funny if you haven't heard this before, but Shark, in my mind, isn't a real brand because of how many times they've had to relabel themselves from EuroPro, and they've gone under Infinity, EuroPro. Shark was the name that they actually were successful under with a successful marketing campaign. They actually tried for about 20 years to market these crappy vacuums from China to the US market, along with a whole bunch of other crap. So, back to this. So, what's cool about this is you are able to pull apart the nozzle on this one, where most Sharks you have to go through a ridiculous amount of screws to get through. Again, there's more chrome and flash and thought put into how this looks than how it actually is designed. So we have a very small clear nozzle that has got nasty. Ugh. Brush roller. Brush roller doesn't spin freely, but it does spin. I don't know if the microphone is picking that up, but that bearing is completely seized. And you can see it has a really small undersized bearing, and there's no way to get in here to remove the hair, and there's no attempt to be made with a felt gasket or anything to keep hair from moving into this, so that's why that's happened. And same goes on the drive side. However, they do make an aftermarket brush roller for this, so that is a good thing. Now on the side we have another roller, and this, I covered this again in the review, but this is what it looks like in person. The front roller doesn't have any suction going to it for whatever reason. And if it had some suction going to it, if they put a suction channel in the middle, that would be great, but there is no suction channel. So the way that this works, and maybe I'll put in some footage of this working on a unit I had in for review, but stuff is going in. The roller's job is to go over it and throw it into the other roller here. And this does not have enough airflow to really make that happen. It has decent suction when it's not clogged up and the filters aren't clogged up, but those filters get full so fast that I couldn't even go through a review video without having to stop and redo the canister several times. I think during the process of a 15-minute review video I made, I believe I had to empty the canister like 4 times and wash the filter a few times as well. So that review video had to be shot over a few days versus a normal vacuum where I could just suck up the stuff. Anyways, House of Vacuums called this the Duo Clean Mustache. And this is what happens is the anti-tangle technology, yes, this is the anti-tangle technology. That's where it all goes. It just kind of gets stuck in this comb. I have to admit these combs are slightly higher quality than they've used before, but it's not glass reinforced resin or anything. It's just ABS. So this is what happens with the front roller. Again, this is expendable and stuff like that. And you see that this front roller is like that. Well, let me show you something. We can give it a haircut. And after the haircut, you can see that it is fluffy again. So again, it's not going to be effective in terms of removing hair. And even before the motor went bad, this is still going to do this. She didn't run it forever with that motor bad. She actually brought it in almost immediately, and her husband looked at it. So it wasn't actually run a whole lot with that. Again, this is normal wear we see with these sorts of machines. And again, this nozzle design, having the suction here instead of evenly distributed through here. And the way that, if they wanted to design this properly, maybe make something like this work, this suction would have to be right here. And we saw with like the Loop or the Lindhouse LS38, where they made a dual roller design, we saw the suction being distributed through there, which made it work a lot better. However, none of these fluffy rollers really work, and you don't need this to clean hard floor. Most hard floor is very sufficiently cleaned with a standard hard floor tool, and I'll insert a video of that. Again, there's no reason for this other than this looks great in the adverts. And that's why it's got 2 different colors here, so that it shows up good for TV commercials. So that's what's in there. Oh, I have to admit, that's thoughtful. They gave you a little tool to... Okay, you're gonna... Okay, they gave you a tool. So this tool they gave you, Shark branded, is to clean the hair off. But in typical Shark fashion, poor execution, there's no actual razor blade. This is something you get when you buy a knockoff Dyson filter from China. They give you this tool. You notice this tool has a metal razor blade in it, where the Shark tool does not. So this actual genuine Shark tool is worse than the free gift from your random Chinese manufacturer. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. So, and again, hair remover tool on the machine that's supposed to resist tangles. So is this user neglect? No, this is poor manufacturing with the user buying the wrong vacuum for their household. This machine might be suitable for somebody who's living in like a studio apartment and has no pets and is vacuuming, once a week for 10-15 minutes. But in a normal size American household, this machine is inadequate. So I hope you now can see where the consumer would get frustrated with this product, let alone the repair people, and why certain influencers really are in neglect and even recommending these sorts of products. Those influencers don't fix stuff. They don't use it past an hour or 2 for filming. And again, I think that's really negligent. I was once talking to one of those influencers at a trade show, and he starts telling me how, oh, Shark has such great technology. And I was with a couple vacuum collectors and a couple people who work in the industry, and we all started laughing at that idea. And he gave us a strange look. He had no idea why we were laughing. We were like, what technology? Well, this is that. What technology? And the customer here was tired of running around with socks with Donald Duck on one side and Mickey Mouse on the other. They got tired of Mickey Mousing around with this half-ass vacuum. And I told you this story would have a happy ending. Well, that customer is now going to get a central vacuum. And at the time of filming, we were doing an estimate, but here in post-edit, here are some pictures of the install. And yeah, they made the leap and got the proper tool to clean their house. And that's kind of where this ends, is this vacuum, you'll buy 1, 2, maybe 3, but usually after the 2nd or 3rd replacement of their Shark, they'll do a Google search and they'll find a better vacuum. And there's not a one size fits all. I see a lot of people pushing one vacuum over the other. And really, some people need a canister. Some people need a heavy duty upright. Some people, they have a big house and they need a central vacuum. And I will say the central vacuum is probably the most universal fit. You know, it's what the customer needs, and we always try to get what the customer needs here. So I hope this has been informative to those Shark Bros who were like, yeah, I'm smarter, I didn't buy a Dyson. Well, you weren't smarter, you bought something that was even more disposable. And there are other brands out there. So I would encourage you to go to the links below. I always have helpful advice down there. I would also encourage you to go check out the auto reply that just is on the Vacuum Reddit. That's got lots of good information for consumers. Again, the information's out there. If you love what we do, check out our Patreon. That helps pay for our camera equipment, things like that. And there'll be a special Patreon video with this in the future. Don't you worry. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a great day.